Okay, an owner is upset over the final design for the CD phase and insists that something important has changed since the previous review at design development. They ask to review the instruments of service of the architect to see what has changed. What might be included in the instruments of service supplied? And then we're looking for 3 possible answers. So the first one here, A, presentation documents from SD and DD. Well, absolutely. The instruments of service are the work that you do as the architect for that project. So your presentation documents for SD and DD phases, absolutely, those would be a part of it. Especially if the client is concerned about something that they saw in the DD phase and they don't see it now, you would absolutely want to present all of that information so they could see the continuity as it moves through. And then B, internal memos from architects to consultants. Absolutely. The one caveat I really should have put on this answer, for this project. So sorry about that. I really should have said for this project. But yeah, absolutely. Internal memos going from the architects to the consultants and back and forth. That's for that project. That's all part of the instruments of service. This is the work that you do for this project. How about the phase 1 environmental reports? Nope. And why not? Because the owner is the one who gets the phase 1 and phase 2 environmental reports. The architect does not. Therefore, you would not be giving them back the information that they gave to you. In fact, you don't want to give them that information. Now, maybe you've done some research about some particular issue that came up from that. That would then be part of your instruments of service that you did as part of this project. But if you're talking about just the phase 1 report, that's something they have already. So you can't give that one back to them. You don't want to take responsibility for it. You don't want to have anything to do with it if you don't need to. All right, how about insurance policies? Well, nope. Insurance policies are not going to be appropriate. It is possible that they may ask, in fact this happens all the time, for a certificate of insurance, which is something that sort of shows, your insurance, your surety, their insurance carrier, would produce a document that says, yes, they have a $1 million worth of insurance and it's with this company, et cetera, et cetera. That's different. That's something they may ask for and you can decide to give them, but it's not part of your instruments of service because it's not about that project. It's about the practice in general, not about that project. So insurance policies would not fit under the heading of instruments of service. How about E, code assessments of the site by the project architect? Absolutely, that's research and analysis that's been done, even if it was done in-house and just a memo or a set of diagrams for the other designers to work with. That's still part of the work that you did for this project, for this client. So they're still paying you for that work. Now, the likelihood that they're going to actually ask you for all of this stuff is really slim. It really only comes up if there's some question or some problem, or they just want more information because they want to reconsider something, or it doesn't come up very much. But the idea is anytime you're doing work and they're paying you for it, that is the instruments of service and they have access to it. Like I say, they probably won't want that access because really who the hell wants your memos to the consultants? But they could have access to those. Zoning code obviously is just the zoning code and that doesn't make sense for you to be sending that to anybody. So one interesting example here might be research. If you imagine you're doing research generally and you've been looking into photovoltaic panels and how you can integrate those into siding materials. And then you start a project and you're working with this client and they know that you've done that research before, and then it turns out it's not a good fit and the contract breaks apart and is split up between you and that client then says, well, we want all of your research that you've done on photovoltaics and exterior siding materials. If you had done that research previously, or even if their fees weren't paying for it, then that's not your instruments of service for that project. That's something you're doing as a development issue for your overall office, for your practice, and that's a separate issue. If, however, you were doing that research on their dime and they were paying you and you were doing that research, then you got to give them all that research. So the idea here is the instruments of service, there's a sort of fine line on some of these things. Some things are work that you've done for previous projects that you're sort of pulling in, but as soon as it becomes part of this project, it's now part of the instruments of service. But you can't expect somebody to pay for your time to do research if you're not going to then allow them to take that research later with them to use as they want to use. So the instruments of service, it's everything that you produce, memos, sketches, presentation documents, all of that stuff for a particular project, for a particular client at a particular site.
For those of you who are ready to start preparing for the ARE right now, and if you're already an AIA member, you can use coupon code 41817PJMYT to get a 15% discount for the entire duration of your ARE exam prep membership. Finally, please leave a comment below the video to let us know what you think and share any suggestions you may have. I promise we'll read every word that you write and use them to tune our next episodes. So thanks for watching.